Great. How about you?
Fantastic. I'm also doing great. I'm so enthused. I was doing some research about you, and I was blown away with what I saw. You've come a long way, and I must say it's really a privilege to be doing this with you. I'm super excited.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very
So,
flattering.
thank you. Right. Well, I want us to kick off. We have just about 30 minutes to be doing this, and so first of all, this is where I want to start from, right? Somebody is watching, somebody is going to be watching this, and they are wondering who is Professor Stacy. Could you please tell us something brief about yourself, your journey, and how you became an advocate for financial literacy?
I'm sorry. The time I last spoke, you were frozen. I didn't hear anything you said.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying that somebody is probably watching and is wondering who is Professor Stacy, right? So I want you to take us through your journey, how you started and how far you have come, what your motivation was that has made you an advocate for financial literacy.
Well, I was raised in a very nice middle class family in New Jersey. We never really talked much about money. Um, but from a pretty early age, I knew I wanted to be financially independent. Like like probably 8 or 9, I knew I wanted to be financially independent. And that manifested in all sorts of things, everything from babysitting to throwing newspapers to flipping burgers at McDonald's, like whatever I could do to work and earn a little bit of money. My aunt teases that I actually slept with my pocketbook underneath my pillow. And I probably did because I'm one of 4 and somebody was always taking everybody else's stuff, right? So I had an affinity and interest in money from very young age. Went to college, earned my Bachelor of Science in accounting, went into the accounting field. I did that successfully for 15 years, then went back to get my PhD so that I could teach accounting. Um, and I've been doing that, teaching upper level accounting and other accounting classes at Bucknell for this is the beginning of my 15th year. But it was about 5 years ago that uh, I'm not even sure I know what the catalyst was. It may have been a student asking me something, and I realized that we didn't have any sort of financial literacy in the college. And actually, I do know what it was. It was another faculty member saying we have absolutely no financial literacy in this college, and we agreed to put together a seminar. So we started a 2-day seminar that we would offer for free to everybody in the university. And when we would ask afterwards, what could we do better? It was always more content, right? It was like I think it was like 6-hour days. I think it was 6-hour days. And we gave them 4 modules and, more. So we created a half credit class, the other faculty member and I. She created the first class, a half credit class. And that was very well received, and we constantly had huge wait lists. And we tried to roll out more classes. This year, I'm introducing it as a full credit because I still get the same feedback. What could we do better? More. So starting in about 2 weeks, I'll be teaching the class as a full credit class. But doing all that and talking to all those young people, Bucknell is very traditional, 18 to 22-year-olds for the most part. I realized how little they knew. And, there's not really a book, or not that I could find, that would talk to very intelligent but ignorant people about money, like starting at why would I want a checking account, all the way up to how much should I invest in, and should it be my Roth or my traditional in order to retire with X amount of money at X age? Like our students have the capability of bridging that, but it needs to be taught. So this past semester, I've been on sabbatical, and I'm working on a book that I'll use in the classroom, but I'll also sell to the public, hoping, kind of in the paperback book range, not a $300 textbook, but, like a $10 book. I can teach more than just our students. And that's what brought me to Prof. Stacy, because, you don't have to pay Bucknell's tuition I don't want people to have to pay Bucknell's tuition to access this information. And then I've been doing that for a little over a year now, almost a year
Oh,
and a half.
that's amazing. I mean, you were talking about how that you realize from an early age, right, at the age of 9, that you wanted to be financially independent, right? So that takes me to this tangent. Is it something that was innate? Do you think it's something everybody has it within themselves to come to that realization, right? That this is what
I
I want to.
Yeah, I think everybody has it in them to know what their passion is, but it's not finance for everybody. So I'm sure if you talk to somebody who is a basketball player professionally, they knew when they were young that that was their passion and that they wanted to do it. They wanted to make something of it. So I'm sure God put in our hearts, a passion for something, some skill that He wanted us to grow and develop, so that we could use it, for the better.
Right. So I am in a part of the world, right, where when you were growing up as a kid, you don't sort of have the freedom to explore all of what you have within you, because by design you have so many challenges, right, that are restricting how you are able to tap into that innate potential, that innate realization. And so a lot of people grow up and they don't seem to be able to fish out that kind of innate potential, you know so for an individual like that, right, what are your thoughts about how they can come to that point?
I think it has something to do with visualization, right? If you don't have resources to necessarily try a lot of different things, whether the resources is time, money, accessibility, um, but you can still visualize it. You can imagine, say it was a passion for cooking. You could imagine, what would it be like to cook? What kinds of things would I cook? And in that imagining, so if I sat here and I imagined myself playing basketball, I would just imagine myself being really tired and having a lot of sore muscles, and there'd be no uplifting to it. It would all be heavy because I was not built for basketball.
I
um,
get that, right.
yeah. So when you visualize it, you either spark something, or it doesn't. And but I don't know. Did we as kids have to be told what we wanted to do, or didn't we kind of know? Like, didn't we? Unless you're
So
just not exposed to something.
that's right, exactly. But earlier today, I was thinking about something, right? That as a kid, you come with certain qualities like fearlessness, curiosity, and spontaneity, you know. But somehow you sort of have or find yourself in an environment that start to beat this kind of qualities out of you, you know. And so you get to a point where you are not able, you're no longer curious because your curiosity has replaced with fear. You are
Mm-hmm.
no longer spontaneous because you are free. You are thinking about consequences. You are not thinking about conformity. And so it's sort of difficult to really maximize that kind of innate potential. And so for a child like that, that's why I was asking how you came to that realization, you know. But I mean, I love the response you gave when you talk about visualization. You know, uh, well, because our conversation today is going to be more on debt, it's going to be on money. I will not go so much into visualization, right? Maybe probably some other time. But let me ask you this: I don't want to assume that I understand debt. I don't want to assume that I understand money. You are the expert. How do you explain this concept of debt? You know, people have said it is bad, others have argued that it is good, and people say we have good debt, we have bad debt. Take us through this.
Well, to be transparent, I don't have debt. I eliminated debt from my life early on. Debt to me was stressful and it was worrisome, because if something happened and I lost my job, or something happened to my income, I owe this money to somebody, and they have the right to come and take my stuff in order to pay it back. So, my 30s, I decided that if I couldn't afford to pay for it, I couldn't afford to have it, is pretty much what it amounted to. Our society has convinced us, in America anyway, here, that there is this thing, good debt and bad debt. And good debt would be debt that is seen as an investment, and bad debt would be consumption. So people put student loans in the category of good debt. Well, that's fine if you graduate and you get the big job and you're able to pay the student loans back. The problem is when you get sick in your sophomore year or your junior year and you can't finish school, or you can't afford to finish. Somebody gets sick in your house and you have to go to work. So if you don't finish school and you don't get the big job, how is the student loan debt good debt? Right? I mean, you now have a lower paying job and yet you still owe that debt. So I see what people are saying about student loans being good debt, but it's only good debt if you play through and everything works out the way that you think it's going to work out. A mortgage would be considered good debt because you're investing in an asset. Well, that's great until 2008, when the housing crisis hit over here and people lost their jobs and lost their homes. How is that good debt?
Terrible, right?
So it depends on the circumstances.
Okay. I get that. So let me bring this up, right? Let's make this as practical as possible. There's somebody who is probably watching, and the person is in multiple debts, juggling between debts. And how does a person like this come out of debt? You talked about how that you eliminated debt, right? So somebody is juggling between multiple debts, and the person feels like his income is not enough. How does a person like this get out of these multiple debts?
Well, there's only ever two levers to pull. You got to make more money or you got to spend less money. So to the extent that a person has a skill or a hobby, something that they can do, they just have free time, working more and pouring all of that money towards the debt will pay it off. It may take a while. It depends on how hard you're willing to work. It depends on how mad you get, how much you decide with passion that I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to give away my entire paycheck anymore. And when you get passionate about something, if you had a child that you loved and you needed $10,000 to get them medicine, you'd find a way, wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
You'd sell stuff.
Definitely.
You'd sell stuff.
Right.
You'd go crazy, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. You have to get in your own heart what it is that you want to do, and then do it with passion, with vigor, for a short period of time, for however long it takes to get free. Or on the expense side, look at everything that you're spending money on. Where can you squeeze those dollars so that you can repurpose them towards paying off the debt? Sure, you want a new phone, but you don't need a new phone probably. And instead, that could pay off the debt X amount sooner. Usually, cutting spending is harder for people psychologically because they feel like they're sacrificing.
Yeah.
So you have to believe that you're sacrificing for something worthwhile, whether you're sacrificing your time to make an extra job, or if you're sacrificing a cup of coffee or a bat with friends. You have to feel like you're making progress, that it's possible, and then some people are willing to sacrifice. People who aren't going to sacrifice at all ever, I don't know what changes them. Life event likely.
I get it. You said something that's so profound, right? The first thing is either you're spending less or you're making more money, right? But I see people who are still trying to manage their debt, right? And because I think that to make more money means having more capacity, right? But there is another aspect to what you said about doing what you want to do with passion, right? And so I'm thinking, is there a certain kind of emotional attachment that a person needs to build, right, in their relationship with money and how they pursue it?
I think a lot of people get lazy, and not in a bad way, just careless. And they spend carelessly, thoughtlessly, maybe thoughtless is a better word. They spend thoughtlessly. They are thoughtless about how they make money. And somehow magically it was just all supposed to work out. But nothing's like that. You don't lose 10 pounds just by thinking about it. You don't become, an excellent athlete by just thinking about it. You got to put in time. You got to put in work. You got to have a plan. You got to work the plan.
Right.
So I don't know that everybody has to have it, but it sure as heck is easier. If you just, you're just wandering about doing your thing, and you wake up and you look up and you've got $10,000 or $20,000 in credit card debt, you got to do something different in order to get something different. Doing the same thing is going to get you the same result.
Right.
It's not easy, but it's worth it. I can honestly say it's worth it.
Right. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
I think that's something that needs to really sink in, right? Because most people really don't have that endurance, to say that I know this is not going to be easy, but I'm willing to go all out to do this, you know. And and I think that's pretty interesting. Now let's talk about this. How does budgeting fit into this?
So all a budget is a spending plan. Some people don't like the B word, so use a spending plan then.
Okay.
When you're calm, cool, and collected, not when you're hungry, not when you're tired, not when you're angry, when you're calm, cool, and collected, you say, I'm going to have $2,000 this month. How do I want my $2,000 to do? What do I want it to do? Well, I want it to pay the rent. I want it to put gas in my car. I want it to put groceries on my table. I want it to whatever your list of spending priorities is. And then you decide whether or not your $2,000 is enough to do all those things. And if it's not, then you have to prioritize. You have to decide. So I can do this, but I can't do that, because it's going to happen anyway. It's not like by ignoring the fact that you have this list of things that you want to do. If you ignore it, it's not like the $2,000 is going to go further. It's not. You're going to get to about the 20th of the month and you'll be out of money. And now you'll be deciding to either use credit cards, or you're making harder decisions because you've only got 10 days, as opposed to when you have all of your expenses for the whole 30 days. I could make a decision on day 2, day 3, day 4 that's going to allow it to last the whole month. But when I'm on the 20th and I got no money left, I don't have a lot of choices anymore. So it's really just calm, cool, and collected, being honest with yourself. I have this much money. And if that's not enough money, I need to find a way to get more money. Something I can sell, somewhere I can work. Right.
Right.
But leaving it negative at the bottom doesn't help at all, because you can't then do all of these things. And that's what a zero-based budget is, right? You spend all the money ahead of time, and then your income minus your outgo is zero, and you're done.
I think this kind of education, this kind of orientation is very common among the masses, right? Which is the larger population, and they don't have that kind of financial literacy. And I am really learning something here, right? You talk about budgeting as being a spending plan, but there's somebody out there who feels like this is my responsibility. This is my responsibility. That is my spiritual responsibility. And so that person is surrounded by what he has identified as personal financial responsibilities that they are trying to cater for. And at the end of the day, the month ends, they get their paycheck, say $2,000, and just about the first, second week into the month, and all of that money is gone. Right? So a person like this, what do you think the challenge is? Because they feel like it is a must for them to take care of that responsibility, and yet it ends them in lack.
Well, it's a hypothetical, but either that person has to make more money to cover all of those legitimate responsibilities, or they have to find another way to satisfy the responsibilities. But just closing your eyes and covering your ears doesn't make that $2,000 go any further. So that's the hard part. And when I work with clients, it's one of the first things we look at, is how do they spend their money, and why do they spend it that way? And if you have, say you have, 7 kids and you have to put shoes on all 7 kids, you might not be able to put them all on in the same month, right? But to sit calm, cool, and collected at the beginning of the month and say, I have this much money, and that's all I have, unless I do something to make more. By ignoring that your income is limited and can only go so far, you make a bigger mess, not a littler mess. So sometimes we have to solve our responsibilities another way, or we have to, if it has to be satisfied with money, prioritize one at a time, one at a time, one at a time.
Well,
can't get blood from a stone.
that's right. So let's look at this. We are in an age, right, where technology is everywhere. We have fintechs all around. How is technology revolutionizing the way we spend money, the way we make money, the way we manage money, right? How is technology doing this, and how do we leverage what technology has to offer?
Well, there's a ton of tools. When I started many years ago, we pretty much used a paper and, a pencil and a big eraser, and that's how you would plan your money. Now a lot of people use apps, and there's a lot of really good apps to use. But when I work with clients, we always start with paper and pencil, because I want you to see the numbers, and then we put them into the app, right? Because until you see it, it's not real. Scrolling isn't real, right? So looking at what your plan is for the month, what your spending plan is for the month, then you can use an app to manage it, especially if it's more than one person using a budget. So a couple, or maybe a couple with a grown child. If more than one person is trying to manage it, you all have the same app, so you all have the same information. So somebody can look and be like, oh, we've only got $50 left for groceries. That's all I can spend, which is why the technology has to also have tracking capability. There's a lot of apps that'll do budgeting, but they don't help you track the expenses. So you don't know on the 15th, I had $200 planned for groceries, but I don't know how much I spent. So finding the technology that has all the pieces that you need in order to be successful, I think is one of the challenges. There's simply too many choices, and they're not all good choices.
So help us with this. Are there any such resources like apps that you would recommend? I mean, we are not trying to promote anybody's app, right? But for education purposes, like any such resources that you think could be helpful?
Yeah, so I can tell you what I use. I use Every Dollar. It's an app that comes out of Ramsey Solutions. There's a free one, and then there's an upgrade to a paid app. That's the one I use, and I've tried several, but I won't say which ones I didn't stay with, because then that would be trashing them.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Definitely. We don't want to sabotage anybody's business or whatever, right?
Yeah,
So,
not my job.
definitely, right. I get you. So let's do this. I checked out your website, right? You've got quite a lot going on there. So help us. Do you have any such financial programs you offer? Now that you initially mentioned about your book, the paperback you talked about, right? Aside that, do you have any other financial resources or kind of program that you offer?
So obviously you can go out to my website, profstacythemoneyteacher.com, and you can sign up for a newsletter. And I send, every 2 weeks, once a month, I'll send a newsletter, but you'd also get notification when new blogs are posted, because I'm always, I'm a writer, college professor, so I write.
Right.
I'm also on all the social media as Prof. Stacy the Money Teacher, so Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of it. I don't tweet much. And I'm constantly doing, videos. Like every week I produce videos on what's going on in the news. So talking about that, I go through budgets. So I show people, real budgets. But then for people who really need kind of more one-on-one, they can't learn just from the app. From my stacythemoneyteacher.com website, you can sign up for private coaching. And I do one-on-one coaching for small businesses, for individuals, and for families.
So, I'm going to be putting your website into the description of this video when it's posted, right? I'm going to capture it there. But let's zoom into this. We have just a few minutes to go, but I want us to talk about something here.
Mhm.
When I was checking out your thing, you talked about debt, talk about budgeting, then you talk about success. So I want us to zoom
Mhm.
into the concept of success and its relationship with money, budgeting, and how those things sort of propel you into success or restrain you. And if you could walk us through that a bit.
Yeah. So to me, success is whatever you envision for your life. So I have a 14-year-old, and success is being able to spend time with her stress-free, doing the things we like to do, nothing too extravagant. We do travel in an RV a lot. So that's always a special time for us. I have a job that I love. I feel like I'm helping people every day. Success, I think, looks like peace and joy. So we all need to work. We were created for work, right? Created by God for work and love. And we have to eat. That crazy thing about eating and wearing clothes and having a roof over our head. If it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have to work. But we do have to work. So
Obviously.
finding something that you like doing. Where the money part comes into it is money can grease the wheels, or it can clog up the wheels, right? So learning to use money as one tool to gain happiness in life, right, means to me using it to try and eliminate the stresses. So people who make $20,000 or $30,000 a year can be completely happy and content. People who make $200,000 could be miserable, right? It doesn't necessarily matter how much it is. It matters whether or not you learn to use it as a tool to build your successful life, whatever that looks like for you. And that's what I try and teach. For some people, it's more of a limiting factor. For some people, it's less of a limiting factor. But how much isn't usually uh, a happiness factor. People think there's some amount of money. I think I saw a study recently that said in the United States, if I just made $75,000, I'd be happy. Like, I think that was the number.
I think I kind of
But
saw it somewhere.
yeah, but then they asked people who made more than $75,000 how happy they were, and they weren't happier. So it's not the money, it's how we use it to grease the wheels to send our life's, toboggan in the direction that we want to go.
Well, that's, that's a light bulb moment right there. That you use the money to grease the wheels, and it's not about how much you make, but how that it enhances your life, right? So you know, a lot of people really don't understand this, and so they get stuck in that track of comparing themselves to other people's journey. And so they sort of feel like they have to work themselves out to make it like the next person. And when we started this, you talked about how that biology does not allow you to do certain things. So people like this, what do you have for them? And we're gonna sum up with this because our 30 minutes is almost up. We got just about 2 minutes. So let's talk about this briefly and any additional comments you want to add to.
I'm sorry, I missed the prompt. Talk about what?
I was talking about people who compare themselves
Oh,
with others.
yeah. We compare ourselves to other people who are thinner, taller, prettier, longer legs, like all sorts of things we compare and then and judge. Money's just one of them. A person who has that nature probably needs to find, other ways to deal with it, because you can't spend your whole life comparing yourself to other people. You'll never measure up. There'll always be somebody who's taller. There'll always be somebody who's richer. There'll always be somebody who's smarter. Always. So that's a character trait. I think that if people are moved by that, they should work on the character trait of envy.
It's quite interesting. I mean, that's hard for people to pick, you know. But yes, right. So our time is almost up, and this is where we're gonna wrap it up. So I'm gonna notify you once this gets published, and I know there's a lot we could have gone into, right? But time wouldn't allow, and so I'm hoping that you would be able to make time for us some other time, or something. I'll send you a mail if that's okay. Right.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
Right, sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Professor. I must say it's a privilege to have you, right? For somebody who's coming from this background, I mean, I never thought this was ever going to happen. You know? Again, thank you so much for gracing this session for us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for including me, so that maybe somebody will hear something that'll spark a change in behavior.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much. And let me leave you. It's already night here. I don't know what time it is over at your place.
It's 4:30 here.
Wow, it's eight.
Almost dinner.
It's 8:30 p.m. right there. So um,
Where are you located?
I'm in Ghana.
Oh, okay.
You ever heard of Ghana?
I've heard of Ghana. I've not visited there. I've had students from Ghana
Wow.
over the years. Yeah, we draw a lot of international students, and quite a few from
Bucknell
Africa.
University, right?
I'm sorry?
Bucknell University.
Yes.
Right. So I have to do my checks before I come in here because I feel no. Yeah. So right. Thank you so much once again. And then I think we're gonna end it here. I'll get in touch with you after the session.
Okay. I appreciate that. Have a great day. Night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.